Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the sweeping, truly epic chronology of Japan. We're going to trace this incredible historical pendulum swing, from ancient, peaceful courts that were entirely obsessed with art and poetry, all the way over to the muddy, chaotic battlefields of brutal warlords, right up to the terrifying and deeply uncertain threshold of the year 1850. We're going to see exactly how one era's peaceful, cultural peaks inevitably birthed the next era's military chaos. It's an amazing journey, so let's get into it. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We've got 6 main chapters. We'll start at the dawn of the archipelago, glide through the golden classical court, track the rise of the shogunate, survive the age of warring states, witness the unification and complete isolation of the country, and finally arrive at the approaching modern storm.
Now, we are making a massive chronological leap today. We're literally jumping from ancient prehistory and the Yamato dynasty around 710 CE all the way to the edge of the modern world in 1850. It's well over a millennium of dramatic shifts, and keeping this timeline in mind is absolutely crucial for unlocking how Japan essentially engineered its own unique destiny.
So, let's start at the very beginning with Section 1, Dawn of the Archipelago, covering prehistory up to 710 CE.
You know, every epic needs an origin story, right? And Japan's kicks off with the ancient Jomon hunter-gatherers, eventually followed by the Yayoi agricultural revolution that brought rice farming to the islands. This agricultural boom was huge. It laid the groundwork for the continuous Yamato imperial dynasty, a lineage that, amazingly, still exists today. But the really crucial turning point here is how this ancient society was forever transformed in the 6th century. Just picture the scene. Ancient Korean monks presenting a magnificent, glowing golden Buddha statue to elegant Yamato court nobles inside a dark, wooden imperial hall. Misty rays of light streaming through the doors. The arrival of Buddhism didn't just bring a new religion, it brought new architecture, a new writing system, and it fundamentally shifted the soul of the entire archipelago.
As time moves forward, that spiritual foundation leads us into Chapter 2, the Golden Classical Court, which covers the famous Heian period from 794 to 1185.
The pendulum now swings way over to a beautifully slow, incredibly poetic era. The capital moves to Heian-kyo, which is the city we know today as Kyoto, and here the focus was entirely on high society art, poetry, and just overwhelming elegance. I want you to picture a Heian noblewoman wearing a luxurious 12-layer silk kimono, a junihitoi, writing delicate calligraphy with a brush. She's sitting behind thin bamboo blinds, fallen cherry blossom petals resting on polished wooden floors. It was inside this incredibly refined, peaceful golden age that noblewomen like Murasaki Shikibu wrote masterpieces like The Tale of Genji, which is widely considered to be the world's first novel.
But, this era brilliantly highlights the cause and effect nature of history. Because while Kyoto was completely obsessed with elegant poetry, courtly romance, and aesthetic perfection, a very different kind of storm was brewing out in the provinces. Out there, Minamoto no Yoritomo and the provincial samurai were using Kyoto's distraction to their advantage. They were consolidating physical territory, building up their armies, and slowly seizing real hard power. Basically, the nobles had the culture, but the samurai, they had the swords.
And that massive shift ushers in Chapter 3, the rise of the shogunate, spanning the Kamakura and Ashikaga periods from 1185 to 1467. So all that elegant poetry from the Heian court, gone. It was abruptly replaced by heavy, armored military rule. The era of the shogun had officially begun. Now, to truly grasp this stark new reality, we have to understand the core principle guiding it, Bushido. This was a strict, unyielding code of conduct and moral principles that bound these warriors together. It emphasized extreme loyalty, martial mastery, and literally honor unto death. The samurai weren't just provincial guards anymore. They were the absolute rulers of Japanese society.
And this newfound martial strength was almost immediately put to the ultimate test. In the late 13th century, Kublai Khan launched massive Mongol fleets to conquer Japan. Honestly, it seemed completely impossible to survive. But the samurai's fierce defense on the beaches, combined with a truly epic, miraculous event, saved the nation. Picture an incredibly cinematic storm, giant, turbulent ocean waves crashing over and completely destroying these massive wooden Mongol warships, all under dark, thundering clouds and flashes of lightning. The Japanese called these typhoons the kamikaze, or divine winds, and it cemented a powerful, lasting belief that Japan was divinely protected.
But as is so often the case, centralized military rule eventually shatters. This brings us to Chapter 4, the Age of Warring States, or Sengoku Jidai, which lasted from 1467 to 1600.
As the shogun's power collapsed, the entire country plunged into a brutal, century-long internal anarchy, and warfare escalated step by step. First, you had clashing daimyos, these powerful feudal lords violently fighting for literally every inch of territory. Then, in Step 2, warfare got a lot dirtier. Secretive ninja networks were deployed for espionage, sabotage, and assassinations. But Step 3? That is where everything changes. The introduction of European firearms, specifically the Tanegashima matchlocks, brought over by the Portuguese. Imagine a misty, muddy valley just filled with gun smoke as samurai infantry charged forward with their clan flags. Warfare was fundamentally revolutionized here, largely under the brilliant and ruthless tactician Oda Nobunaga, who actually used these matchlocks to completely devastate traditional samurai cavalry.
That chaos finally brings us to Chapter 5, Unification and Complete Isolation, covering the Battle of Sekigahara and the Edo period.
That number is just astounding. 160,000. All of those decades of blood, fire, and political betrayal culminated in the ultimate, fog-shrouded climax, the legendary Battle of Sekigahara in the year 1600. Emerging from the dense morning mist, a staggering 160,000 warriors clashed in a single colossal battle. Imagine colorful sashimono banners cutting through the dense white fog as thousands of samurai armies faced each other down. When the smoke finally cleared, Tokugawa Ieyasu stood victorious, cemented as the absolute, undisputed ruler of a newly unified Japan.
So, the really crucial question here is, how do you stop the horrors of the warring states from ever coming back? Well, the Tokugawa shogunate's answer was pretty drastic. They implemented Sakoku, or the closed country policy. They essentially locked Japan away from the rest of the globe. A perfect visual for this is the fan-shaped island of Dejima in Nagasaki Harbor. It was literally the only place where a single wooden Dutch merchant ship was allowed to dock, and it was heavily guarded by samurai outposts. For over 2 centuries, no one could enter and no one could leave. Japan engineered a perfect, eerie, yet profoundly stable domestic peace.
And inside this claustrophobic but perfectly peaceful environment, often called Pax Tokugawa, the pendulum swung right back from war to art. Cut off from all foreign influence, Japan sparked a massive, entirely localized cultural boom. The cities just thrived. We saw the rise of incredibly vibrant, dramatic kabuki theater performances, geisha culture flourished in the entertainment districts, and artists created the iconic ukiyo-e woodblock prints, capturing the floating world of urban pleasure and stunning landscapes. It was essentially a second golden age, but this time it wasn't just for the nobles, it was for the common merchants and townspeople too.
But as we reach our final chronological chapter, the calm of the Edo period is about to be shattered. Welcome to Chapter 6, The Approaching Modern Storm, taking us right up to the threshold of 1850.
By the time we hit the mid-19th century, that long peace had stagnated. We find an aging, rigid, and economically strained shogunate. The samurai class, having literally no wars to fight for 250 years, had largely just become indebted bureaucrats. Imagine an aging samurai standing on a wooden coastal watchtower in the late afternoon golden hour. He's looking out over a moody, dark ocean. On the far horizon, ominous storm clouds are gathering. Japan is sitting dangerously on the edge of history, completely unaware that just moments from now, Western black steamships commanded by Commodore Matthew Perry are going to arrive, force Japan open at gunpoint, and drag them kicking and screaming into the modern global era.
And that brings us to the end of our journey today. As we stand on that very watchtower in 1850, looking out at the dark horizon, we leave you with one final, suspenseful thought. Before the deafening mechanical blast of the modern industrial steam whistle cuts through the silence of the Edo period forever, we have to ask, when the unstoppable force of the modern, industrialized world crashes against 2.5 centuries of perfect, isolated tradition, can the walls hold? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this helped you visualize the incredible pendulum swing of Japanese history. Keep seeking out the story behind the facts, and I'll catch you on the next one.